Hello again, everyone. This is Matt Stolenwork, your distance education specialist, and we're there. This is the last post of my 10-part video series on developing your Moodle course. I'm sorry about the delay in getting this post out to you. As you know, it's probably been for everyone. It's been a busy week, and I'm only just getting to this now. But I'm ready to get started on this last one. So let's get with it. The activities I've described to you up to now over the past few posts have primarily been for formal activities, things that you, as part of your syllabus, your plan, things that you assign to students, usually for a grade. Well, today we're going to explore ways that you can communicate informally with your students using Moodle. These informal channels I think are really essential in building a relationship with your students. It's a way of creating and maintaining a personal presence that keeps them engaged with you and with the content. So over the next few minutes, I'll show you some ways to do this, as well as to monitor course activity so you can keep track of students and gauge their collective progress in the class as well as individual students. So I've already covered announcements. It's one type of informal communication tool. Announcements are great for sending messages to all your students in your course. And you'll find that in that automatically created forum activity called the news forum. It's soon to be called announcements. That's what it'll be called in the future, which seems it's a little more descriptive, I think, anyway. So hopefully you've already sent a start of term announcement to your students using this announcements tool. Um, you'd use this announcement to get them excited about the course, remind them about the upcoming activities. But remember, you can send messages using announcements throughout the term to keep your students on track. For example, you can provide reminders of announcements due, and maybe if you have a long-term assignment, maybe you can remind students about where they should be in progress to be on track on completing those assignments. You can use announcements to share a change of schedule, some news, things that may be of interest to students going on in the world that's related to your course, and also to provide words of encouragement. If you gauge that student morale may be low or there's some uncertainty, you can focus them, maybe send them an answer to an often asked question. It's not only good for keeping students focused on the course activities, but it also makes your students feel like they're in the loop, like someone's paying attention to them, is adapting to their needs in some way. To remind them that this really is a living course where there is an instructor that's really involved in their growth, their progress, their participation. So announcements are great for sending messages to the whole class, but what if you want to send a message to just one student, or maybe just a group of students in your course? Well, you might think of email first for doing this, but there's some challenges to that. First of all, you need to track down the United email addresses of your students. For privacy reasons, you can't use their personal email addresses. You also have to consider whether they actually check their United email regularly. Remember that just like you can set your notifications to direct messages to your personal email, students can do the same thing, so they might not even be checking their United email a lot. And since you may or may not be contacting these students regularly, you'll have to decide, are you going to add these students as contacts to your address book? Are you going to create a mailing list for every course that you create? Those could take up some time. And then, of course, what are you going to do with these contacts and lists when the course is over? Do you want to hold on to them, or go through the effort of removing students or courses that you won't be using anymore? Well, there's really no need to manage email this way because Moodle has a built-in messaging tool that lets you send messages directly to any individual or any group of students within your course. And this is right where you'll find it. You go to your user menu, and right here under messages is where you can access this messages tool. When you send a message to a student, they'll receive a notification of your message to their preferred email account based on how they set their preferences, or it'll appear as a pop-up in their browser. And these messages that you send and the messages that your students send to you, they stay within the course. So it makes it really easy to track correspondence. And of course, because this is all behind that Moodle wall, it ensures student privacy. So let's see how to send a message to a student in a course. So you'll go to the user menu, choose messages, and you'll see the message page come up. Up here is the message navigation menu. If you want to choose a student in your course, you just locate the course, the current course, open it up, and you'll see the list of all the students in your course. Now I just have 2 students. I'll select the student I want to send a message to, and a new message appears. Now I don't have any messages yet with this student, but if I did, I'd be able to see all the messages between me and that student right here. So I can see, what the conversation has been leading up to this most recent message. Now, if a student is someone that I have regular contact with, I can add them as a contact, and that will appear under my contacts right here when I open messages so I can get them quickly. So I type my message here, and I send the message button, and it goes to that student. It'll appear in their messages page just like mine appears here, and they'll also receive a notification. Now, if you want to send a message to multiple students, you can do that too. What you'll need to do is to open the course itself that you want to send the message to. And in the navigation block, you'll see there's this participants link. And you'll see all of your students. Just select the students you want to send the message to. You can also select all if you want. And then with selected users, choose send a message. You'll see the list of all the students. You can type your message here, and when you're ready to send the message, you just hit send message. Now, as a teacher, you also have the capacity to send a message to any Moodle user, whether or not they're in one of your classes. To do that, go back to messages, and then over here, you can actually type in the name or any piece of the name of the person that you want to send a message to. Choose search people and messages, and every single user in United's Moodle instance will appear in this list, and you just choose the student or user that you want to send it to. This isn't just students. This is also any faculty and staff that have a Moodle account. All right, now you can also search for messages. If you choose advanced here, you can search for individuals just in your course. You can also search for keywords within any message that you've sent or received. And there's a bunch of options here too for you. Now remember, you'll receive notifications of any messages based on your preferences. So you'll get an email if anybody sends you a message. You can also look it up right here under messages. You'll see recent conversations right here, and anyone who sent you a message, you'll see their message right here. So, for example, this student has sent me something, and I'll go ahead and open this and be able to read the message. And I can delete a message if I want. If I'm done looking at messages, I can also reply to a message, and it'll go back to that user. Now, you will be receiving messages from time to time from students. Remember to follow through on the turnaround time that you committed to on your syllabus. So, if your policy is to respond to student messages within 24 hours, make sure that you have a schedule in place for you to do that, so that students have that sense of consistency that you will respond to them, that they know that you're being responsive to those messages. Even if you don't have an answer, to at least respond and say you're working on it, I think will go a long way in giving them that comfort and knowing that there's somebody there that's responding. I feel it's extremely important that you establish a personal presence early on in your course. So I recommend, as as one way of doing this, that you send a personal message like this to each student sometime in the first 2 weeks of your course. And I'm not talking about like a standard boilerplate statement, but add something unique to each message to a student. And you can use, say, the student responses. If you did an introductions activity, maybe use one of, something personal about one of the students shared. Make that part of your message, a response to that. Maybe some work that the student provided from the first assignment. Maybe the students actually added something to his or her profile. You can use any of these as sources for personalizing your message and perhaps starting a conversation with that student. Well, one reason you might message students later in the course might be to give them feedback about their class participation. And one really quick, easy way to do that is to monitor the gradebook. You can see, I'll take a look right here under course administration grades. I can see at a glance, students that have submitted work, students that have submitted work late, or maybe missing work. And you can provide them feedback on that to ask them, if everything's okay, or ask them about their progress, if they have any needs or issues or anything like that. Moodle also provides tools that let you see how much students are accessing each of your course activities and resources. So you can see parts of the course that aren't being used by your students. And perhaps you can give feedback to all the students to direct them to activities and resources that you feel are being neglected. So to see all of the student activity for a course, you would go into your course. So for example, the sample syllabus-based course is mine. And in the administration block, there's a reports option, and there's a submenu. Choose activity report. And you'll see a list of all of the resources and activities in your course. They're grouped by section. The sections that you created. I have assignments, resources, and support. And you can see how many views there have been for each of those activities and resources. Some of them may have a lot of views, some may have none at all. So you can track to see how often each of these activities and resources are being used by students. You can also see the last time and date that each of these activities and resources were accessed. You can also monitor individual students' activity. You can use this to look for students that may not be keeping up with the course. Perhaps kind of nip in the bud any students that might be falling off. And you can send messages to provide encouragement or ask for feedback. So to see an individual student's activity within a course, what you want to do is open a student's profile, and you can do that anywhere the student's name appears in the course. For example, in the participants link that we looked at previously, each of my students is here. All I need to do is just select a student's name, and I can see all their profile information. Now within there, there are lots of profile items, including the last time the student logged in. This is a good red flag that would indicate whether a student has even seen the course recently. If they haven't, that might be something that you might want to alert them, that you're noticing that they haven't logged in recently. There are a bunch of other really cool reports that you can use. For example, all logs. It shows the number of course pages that each student has accessed each day. So you can kind of see at a glance their pattern of participation day by day and week by week. Another item is the outline report, and this shows students' participation by course activity. What they've accessed and what they've submitted items to and what they've been graded for. For example, this student hasn't accessed any of the resources, so that might be a red flag right there. And of course, the grade lets you see the students' grades for each of the activities. This is also accessible in Gradebook. A couple of other nice, or one other nice thing you might want to look up is perhaps forum posts. If you have discussion forums, you can see all of a student's posts to all of the discussions in the course on one page. This is especially useful if perhaps you give a single participation grade for forum posts. You can assess the quality and quantity of student posts right on this page and give a single grade as an assignment. Well, there are so many other ways to connect with your students and create a space for dialogue and discussion within your course. I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to introduce just a few here, starting with Moodle's chat tool. Now, chat allows you to host a live chat session with your students. Let me show you where that is. So it's like any other activity. You create it as an activity, and let me turn editing on real quick. And then I'll make one down here at the bottom under support. And it's an activity like every other activity. I just choose it. So again, like I said, you can host a live chat session with students. It's like messaging, which we just went over, but it occurs in real time. People send messages back and forth on a single page. I like to call it video conferencing without the bandwidth. You have that live interaction, so create that connection that you wouldn't with these messages that happen asynchronously. But you don't have to worry about people's internet connections being bogged down or anything like that. It's really good for group meetings, and you might also be able to host, might want to consider using it to host office hours. You can also keep a history of chat sessions so that you can refer to them in the future. Another great tool for creating space for dialogue is Big Blue Button. This is actually a video conferencing tool integrated within Moodle. So you can use it to host a video conferencing session within Moodle. And again, it's an activity. You can just create it, put it into one of your sections, and you can host a video conference. Again, this is great for perhaps office hours. You can have a different, or this, like have a recurring session each week for office hours. You can use it for one-on-one sessions and small group meetings. One caveat to Big Blue Button is, in my experience, it doesn't really work well on mobile devices. On some devices, it doesn't work at all, so you're kind of limited to using all participants using desktop or laptop computers. Now, Skype is a popular alternative for Big Blue Button. You can use it for online office hours as well as one-on-one and small group meetings. And it does work with mobile devices as well as laptops and desktops. But remember that each participant in a Skype session needs to have a Skype account, and that might not be something that's acceptable to students. Also, you can't record sessions in Skype. So depending on your needs, Skype may or may not work for you. Now, more United professors are actually using an external video conferencing tool you might have heard of called Zoom to conduct their online video sessions. And students don't need a Zoom account to participate in a Zoom session. You can even record Zoom sessions, and students can access Zoom from a mobile device. In fact, even if they don't have an internet connection, they can call in to a Zoom session just by using a phone line. So that provides a lot of flexibility, and you can certainly ask me if you want to know more about that. So during the term of your course, I recommend that you hold at least one live, preferably one-on-one session, or maybe a small group session with each student in your course. That can be by phone, by Skype, or any other of the tools I just described here. Also, I encourage you to encourage students to use Moodle messaging and maybe these other tools to communicate informally with each other in the course, with or without you moderating the activity. This is especially true if you assign group work. You want to encourage them to use as many channels that work for them as possible to keep that connection between them. So we're at the end. We've completed the entire series of how to develop and run a course in Moodle. I thank you very much for sticking with me through this series. If you've missed any of my posts, or if you'd like to review them, you can find all of these posts in my Moodle blog. And by the way, you and your students can start your own blog in Moodle just by going to the user menu, go to your profile, and choose blog entries. And you will have a personal blog all ready and waiting for you here. Just add a new entry and you're ready to start going. Title, type it in, you can add files, you can publish to yourself if you're not ready to publish. You can publish it to anyone on the Moodle site, or like I did, you can have it published to anyone in the world. And then when you're ready to post it, you just choose Save Changes. Well, I'll continue offering regular blog posts to you on Moodle, as well as I'll also offer blog posts on best practices for online teaching and learning. So I hope you'll continue to follow me and give me feedback. Now you may already know that we do have a new information resource for students called Student Guides. It's located up here. It's worth checking out. It's resources specifically targeted for students, but you might find some of them useful. And you can also refer students to them. If they ask you questions, you can refer them to the student guides, and it's available at the top of the Moodle page to everybody. Now I'll also be, I'm just starting my own faculty version of the student guides called Faculty Guides, and you can find it in your list of courses up here in the navigation menu. It'll just say Faculty Guides, and you'll notice I'm just starting it. But I'll be adding tutorials and resources here, and it includes a link to my blog if you want to review any of my blog posts. It's designed for you to use on demand. When you have a question or a need, you can just come here and get the answer or learn how to do it. So if you have a question or you'd like to learn how to do a task, just let me know and I'll work on adding it to the guides. In the meantime, there are plenty of resources out there on the internet for learning Moodle. You can Google search for a specific tool. There's plenty of videos and step-by-step tutorials out there. And Moodle has its own official documentation you can browse to learn all about the tools and features that Moodle has to offer. And that's available at docs.moodle.org. So it's docs.moodle.org. And I'm going to put that in the faculty guides. So that's worth checking out too. So I wish you the best of luck on your courses this term, and I look forward to seeing you again in my next blog post. Until then, bye-bye.